Greetings, listeners, from Roy Damari Vinsam. I am just back from the United Kingdom, where I was able to see what was going on with the Conservative Party conference, and before that, the Labour Party conference. But it's been a week with tragic events just about everywhere. We have the absolute massacre, disaster in the United States, left people like me wondering why on earth would a country allow private citizens to obtain automatic or semi-automatic weapons. Bad enough they should have any weapons, but automatic ones which can spray bullets like that, hundreds, thousands of bullets into a crowd, is just beyond the belief of most of us Europeans. Then the second tragic event is what's going on in Catalonia. I even pronounce it, I think, the way I'm supposed to. We would normally say Catalonia, wouldn't we? But Catalonia, where the Spanish government has handled it so badly. Imagine for a moment that when the Scottish people had their referendum, their vote to see whether they wanted to secede from the United Kingdom, imagine if the British Parliament had sent in troops or baton-waving police or whatever to stop them voting. That would have been an absolute guarantee that they would vote and that they would declare independence. And now that is exactly what is happening in Catalonia. By applying violence to try and keep it under control, the Spanish government has stirred up a hornet's nest which won't go away. I only hope that they will in fact start negotiating rather than just hurling insults at each other. But my main subject this week, in my ramblings if you like, is the situation in UK politics. I can honestly say I would not know whom to vote for, therefore to some extent I am neutral, although I will admit to a lifelong leaning towards the Labour Party, which biases me a bit, but I'm also a great believer in a free market economy, so that brings me back more to centre ground. And I'm certainly not a keen supporter of any of the leading politicians at this moment, and that would include Corbyn. But my view is expressed there only to assure you that I'm not pushing one side or the other. I want to just observe what I saw this week after the two, or during the two party conferences. On the one hand, we had Corbyn of the Labour Party making a speech which had some content, but it had fire, it had vision, and above all, it had the support of many young delegates and many young people throughout the country. And that contrasts with the speech by May, who now has the wonderfully insulting nickname of Maybot, who went on stage with a cold, and in the end she lost her voice, particularly after a prankster had gone up and issued her one of these forms that you get in the UK when you are dismissed, and gives the reason why you're dismissed and how long the notice must be, and she accepted it, and that was all filmed, and it was very symbolic that she's on her last legs. Now, why would I say that? Because I think there are problems inside and outside and in the opposition. There are problems everywhere for her. On the inside, there is clear dissatisfaction with her leadership, with the fact that she called an election to increase her majority and promptly lost her majority, and that does not go down well with the other members of the Conservative Party. Then there's the fact that this Boris Johnson is kind of jumping the gun all the time and speaking off his own bat rather than speaking as a member of a cabinet which is supposed to have a united voice. It has been made very apparent that a cabinet does not have a united voice, particularly over Brexit, which is where all the problem is. Having voted in favour of Brexit, the British population now have to face the consequences. The consequences are dire, and there are those in the Conservative Party that say to hell with it anyway, we'll go to the edge, we'll leave completely and just follow whatever rules are there from the World Trade Organization. Others, and I would like to think they're a bit more thoughtful, are saying, but we do want to maintain relationships with our European partners. They are an important trading bloc for us. and we will therefore like to have a gentle Brexit, a timed Brexit with an overlap period. And these two views are present in the cabinet and outside the cabinet, and that weakens any attempt by the government to produce a united front. And then poor Theresa May, and I do feel sorry for her, when she got back on the stage after this incident with giving her the notice paper, could hardly speak. She started coughing, dropping letters, and generally came across as extremely weak. Yes, she was brave to go on when she'd lost her voice, but then the newspapers were all about that rather than the content of the message. There was nothing much in the message anyway. One tried to tease it out between the paragraphs in the newspapers that spoke about her leadership and her losing her voice, and that was symbolic of losing her leadership and so on. But it just wasn't there. She wasn't the leader they were hoping for. And if they say they are behind her, people like Philip Hammond and Boris Johnson, you rather feel they're saying it, how can I describe it, not exactly lying through their teeth, wouldn't go that far, but they are pretending something which they know is not really true. So there we have the contrast between the two leading parties' national conferences. It's a pity, to some extent, that the Lib Dems are not also taken seriously in this comparison of the party conferences, but they just are not making the right noises to attract people, particularly young people. And I have to say, Corbyn and the Labour Party are making the right noises to attract the young people, to the point where there seems to be a sea change taking place in British politics. That is a subject which a certain Larry Elliott of The Guardian has written on, and I read that with great interest, found myself very much in agreement with him. And he begins by pointing out that there was a time when Labour lost power to the Tories. It was Callaghan losing to Thatcher, that he felt that he was going to lose. He felt that authority was slipping away. And there are times, perhaps once in every 30 years, when there is a sea change in politics. It doesn't then matter what you say or what you do. There is a shift in what the public wants and what it approves of. Well, that was Callaghan speaking about Thatcher coming, but I rather suspect it fits Theresa May, with the sound of the arrival, the revival of the Labour Party, with its promises to make education at university level cost a lot less or be free, with its commitment to nationalising industries which don't need nationalising at all, but which appeals to people apparently today. It's odd or coincidence, or maybe it's not coincidence, that last week I spoke to you about Michael Porter and his move to say, look, the system in the USA has broken down politically with economic consequences, and therefore there needs to be something new there. There's a certain parallel with this shift, this sense of dissatisfaction with the existing system, the existing capitalist system, the existing free market system. And it isn't that it wants to be overthrown, or people want to overthrow it in favour of some central planning or communist system, but they know it's somehow wrong, it's gone wrong, and something has to be done to improve it or get it back on track. The complaints include the cost of education, the very high prices of housing, the inability of newly married or new people wanting to enter the housing market not to be able to because it's too expensive, the sense that it is unfair that wages have remained pretty well the same for years and the standard of living going down for the many, while the few have got enormous salaries, which are often measured at over 100 times the average salary, and people are saying that isn't right. Corbyn and the Labour Party have plugged right into that with a very simple but meaningful statement, namely, for the many, not the few. For the many, not the few. Now, I'm not saying that because I support the Labour Party. I think their economics are not right. But the Conservative Party is making such a mess of things that you have to say, well, they deserve to lose at the moment because they're not leading the country, they're not moving towards a good Brexit, and they're not introducing this great concept of fairness, which is now the groundswell of how the British people want to see their country run. Let me indulge in a little bit of foreseeing. I don't think May will last very long, but it will be months, not weeks. I don't think Boris Johnson will stay in the cabinet much longer, and he'll be a kind of Tory inside rebel. I think Philip Hammond is on the way up, but he's a bit too mild for most people. And the person I actually tipped some months ago on this programme as coming forward as a possible UK Tory party leader is Ruth Davidson from Scotland. Remember, she's a member of the Scottish Parliament now, not of the UK Parliament. And finally, there's this very odd character that's mentioned in all the papers called Rees-Mogg. Odd name, isn't it? And he's kind of old-fashioned, but Jacob Rees-Mogg has been attracting the few younger members of the Tory party to his speeches, as it were, downstairs off the main platform. And so he's a bit of a rising star, quite young, and attracts young people. And that is the problem with the Tory party. The average age of members now is over 70, almost my age, over 70. And there's this movement of rejecting or putting off many young people. And I can imagine that this Rees-Mogg fellow and perhaps Ruth Davidson can do something about that major issue as the Tory party ages in both its concepts and its memberships. Well, there are something to think about for particularly those of you who are interested in British politics. Forgive me if I don't take a strong position as to which party. I shouldn't do that on this programme anyway. And it's genuine. I don't take a strong position. I just find the whole situation is very unsatisfactory. It needs sorting out.